Okay, hi everyone. Today, as I said, I review the exam in terms of the chapters, what kind of questions you might see. And also then I start to look at your project progress. And I start from people in the class in case you have any questions or you need some comments from me. And then I go to over Zoom. Over Zoom, we just have one person right now. So about the your evaluation, as you see, there's a little changes. First of all, this semester we had a hybrid class, and some of you are synchronous, asynchronous, and like in person. So we couldn't. While in the last year, we almost every day we had a quiz, a short online quiz. So, but since there is so many different you are in the so different modes. I think it was not fair to like evaluate you with the people who might answer later. So as you see, so the quiz credit shifted to other parts. One of the things that most of you has missed so far, except just one person in this class participation. So it was either asking questions or giving some comments or over GroupMe. So if you are, or maybe you're asynchronous, some of you are not in the class right now, so and watch the video later. You need to go to the GroupMe. Maybe you have questions or help your friends by answering their questions, or maybe you can find some interesting topics related to the course and share it over GroupMe. So as you see, just if 5%, so this 5%, hey, can change your grade from A to B, or sorry, A to A minus, something like that. It's just 5% of your credit. So again, for even people who are using asynchronous mode, you can go over GroupMe. Even if you don't have any question or you cannot answer your friend's question, just share some interesting thing related to your course, or maybe interesting questions or any link that you think is useful. And you should at least make 5. If you didn't participate in, if you haven't participated and you will not participate in discussion in the class, at least post 5 different posts over the GroupMe link, over our GroupMe. So it would account for participation. Otherwise, you don't want to change your grade from A to A minus if you didn't have any participation. Again, we are in the strange semester, so it's the reason. Otherwise, we had a quiz every day. So in that quiz, I also can take care of your attendance, because if when you answer a question, even right or wrong, I understand that you were in the class. But again, for the people who are using asynchronous, we couldn't, this semester, we changed a little bit. So assignments, I think, is very clear. Term project is 30%, final is 35%. I give you, later show you the deadline. I mean, I post your take-home exam, and you can answer and send it to me. Again, no worries if your answers might be different. In some questions, I might give you some flexibility. So based on the policy that you define, especially in the prescriptive analytics, your answer might be even a little different from your friends. So that's totally fine. And overall accounts for 100%. Any questions? So it's a 35, not 40. So 35% is your final exam. It might be some question from Tableau, 9. By the way, I've talked with a 9 guru. Guru means someone who is very professional in like teaching something, or so she might give a lecture about 9. I'm not sure if she has time for this semester, hopefully. And the questions could be from lectures, in-class demos, or your homework. So it might be from all of them. Test. In the evening of 29th of November, so you have 18 days. I share the final exam. You have about 3-4 days to answer it, and don't do any late submission. First of all, I don't want to lose any credit. Even if you have a very good reason for submitting late, it's very hard to change your grade. Eventually, we might do that, but it might be very stressful for you because it takes a long process. So asking some people to change your grade after submitting, so it might take a while, and you don't want to be under stress. So you see like your final semester transcript doesn't look good. So because I'm going to submit your grades December 3rd if I can. I try to submit the latest time that I can, but if it's I think it's December 3rd. So if I submit your grade and you didn't send me your final exam, in your transcript you might see a 0 or like a absence or something like that.
Is that email
upload over Moodle. Any questions so far? No, you can have multiple submissions, but if you submit after the due date, I don't grade it. So by due date, you might have 10 submissions. I look at the last one. So I don't afford for every of you. I like look at 5 or 6 different submissions. I just look at the latest one. I mean, some of them are writing, some of them are file. You need to submit like Excel file or like Tableau file. It's something similar to your assignments, but from whole of the topics. About the project also, please spend a good amount of time. So this semester we didn't have any midterm and quizzes. So you need to have put more effort for your term project in terms that might look professional. You explain everything. Last year I remember some submissions, they just put some like figures without any explanation, or like very bad formatting, or they submit some files for the final project. When I run their files, I got different answer. So when you submit some files, when I run that, I should get same answer that you gave it to me. For example, let's say if your prediction rate is 68%, that's fine. Maybe your problem is so difficult, your accuracy is 68. But if in your final write-ups, if you say my accuracy was 90%, and when I run your code, I got 68, it's too bad. So I should be able to reproduce your result based on the codes that you submit. I don't say, I mean, they did something bad. I don't mean in that way, but I just mean your result should be reproducible. If I don't say anything, you can use any of them. But even if I ask you Excel, maybe you can do in Lingo and see the result and then check in the Excel. So, and you come a little bit, there's some checklist, you can pick anything that you want. Yeah. So in the week first, we talk about, generally talk about visualization, which type of analytics we have. You had some reading from the book. Then we start Tableau. In second week, we had some visualization examples, and we talk about importance of storytelling. So if you use visualization, either in your final exam or in your project, you should put a story for that. So when I look at your visualization, I want to see how you interpret those visualization, what they are talking about. So it's very important to talk about the story of your visualization, maybe one paragraph for each figure. So at least I can understand, you can interpret figures and get some analytics from your data. Let me see if I'm recording. Yes, I'm recording. quick demo with forecast dashboard. I think we talked about Big Four. We had some other talk about other tools, and we start talking about predictive analytics. Then we talk about standards. So I'm a fan of Christian standard, but you can follow any standard that you like. But as I say, in your final project, you should try to improve your result through a cycle. So Christian has a cycle. So maybe your accuracy is 68%. You want to change some parameters, maybe you do feature selection or change the algorithm or anything. At the end, maybe you cannot improve it. That's fine. But at least I should see you try to improve your performance. Unless you get 100% accuracy, which is really weird. So there is no, even if you get 100% accuracy rate, which is super weird, you should try another approach. Even if the second approach is like 95, that's fine. So I want to see you follow the cycle, try to use different models and approaches to predict an outcome. So we had some we had some demonstration overnight. Then we talk about text analytics application, concept methodology, and we talk about TF-IDF. I'm not sure if you remember. So we had text files. Then you cannot use text files in the predictive model. You need to convert a textual document to an equivalent numericals. So either you assign 0 or 1 to each word, or you give some importance using TF-IDF. We talk about semantic analysis, association rule. So you might remember some items might go next to each other because there is a high association between them. Like, do you remember the example that we talked about? We talked in the class. We checked what was the example? Yes, and it was beer. Yes, alcoholic beverages. So yeah. Then in the latest part, we talk about prescriptive analytics. So you might have a question to solve a problem through visualization. So there is a good and bad thing about solving with visualization. The easy part, we can easily find the answer in the Excel and check your answer in the visualization, see if you can solve it through visualizations. Basically, first of all, your region should be feasible. You might have some constraint that give you an infeasible answer, and if it's feasible, then you check each corner and see which one maximize or minimize based on your objective function. Then so we tried some type of linear programming applications and examples. So for example, what is binding constraint? We talk about slack, surplus, shadow price. So I might ask you to interpret the result and do the sensitivity analysis. So for example, say, talk about shadow price, slack, binding constraints, and what does it mean? Not just saying which one is slack, which one is binding constraints, which are unbinding. You should interpret them. So you can look at videos. So this semester we had, for the asynchronous people, I also make videos. So you can use those videos to remember how to interpret binding constraints, what they are talking about, why those constraints are important. I'm talking about slack, surplus, and there is an association between slack, surplus, and unbinding constraint. You need to be able to explain them. Then we talk about like make versus buy, transportation problem, multi-step models, transportation loss, estimation truck cost, employee problem, worker assignments, shortest path, network flow, max flow, and goal programming. So again, if I don't tell you which application use, maybe I'm not sure, frankly speaking, but if I give you flexibility, you can decide about the policy and also the software. Maybe you want to do through Lingo or Excel solver. Again, if you are flexible in policy, maybe you end up having infeasible region. Some of your friends might be find some answers. Some of you might be have binding constraint, unbinding constraint. So if you have flexibility, your answers might be very different. So because a small change in the policy would end up having different results. But at the end also you need to do some interpretation. So the most one that I ask you is about sensitivity analysis. If you forgot those things, I mean, you can easily Google it, like how to interpret binding constraint, slack, surplus, shadow price, or we already have some, I think I explained 2 different sessions, so you can look at those sessions and see how to interpret these parameters. Any questions about your final exam? People over Zoom, do you guys have questions? By the way, this semester, the load of the class was much lower than previous semesters because you also get some surveys that the students are not very efficient in terms of time management, which is totally fine. We are not in a normal situation. So as we might see, we didn't have that much of homework, and like the quizzes was not fair, so I exclude the quizzes. So hopefully next year we get rid of COVID, and yeah, I mean, if you take my courses, usually there you have so many homework assignments and quizzes, like almost every day you should be prepared. So but this year, I mean, it's totally fine. Even your professors, they are not that much efficient. So if you are doing so many things online and like stay at home and don't socialize that much, we expect that it might affect your performance. So at the end, you shouldn't be worried about your exam. I'm pretty sure that most of professors consider the specific situation that we are in. For the next steps, if you are interested more in analytics, take analytics programming, either with me or other professors. So in that course, you go to the coding part. You can do so many cool things, and like you have much more flexibility, because when you do coding, you are not limited to a company like Nine. You are so flexible to so many cool things. Yes, what's your question?
No, also is like which electric tools do you take? Apart from this one.
Usually I'm teaching three courses. One of them, business intelligence and visualization. I mean, they changed the name a little bit. So in this course, you generally learn about analytics. Another one is business analytics programming, which I assume you a little know about Python, but even if you haven't had Python before, there is some free online courses that we recommend, so you can study those courses and be ready. So I start from scratch, but it's better to have some general idea about Python before. Then we end up doing machine learning at the last part of that course. So we start from like how to write basic codes in Python up to machine learning. And the latest course, which I teach this semester, is big data infrastructure programming, which is really a hardcore Python programming. Even some sessions are so in the high level that I told the student they are optional. So you learn how to work with the big data platforms such as Hadoop, Amazon AWS. So you do Python coding over like server supercomputers. So I teach these 3 courses so far. Business and its programming. Ask your advisor, and if you have electives, I'm more than happy to have you in my class. So yeah, next semester no, I don't offer it. I offer it next fall. But if you are really interested in analytics in your field, you may not be in the analytics, but I recommend to get a programming course. And no worries if you never had experience. Actually, I had a student, I'm not sure if she's happy to tell her name. I asked her if she's interested. I tell you her name. She was from, I think, mechanical engineering. She never had any coding. Now this semester she's competed in the national big data competition. She's among top 50 students in the whole of United States.
Wow.
So no worries if you never had any programming experience. But with Nine, you get the logic, so and you can just take some free. You spend like 1 week, watch some online free courses, and you get pretty ready for that course. But if you take my courses, usually there's so many homework assignments, like difficult courses. Don't think it was like such a difficult. Even next year, hopefully when we get rid of visual analytics, this course would be much more difficult. So you are kind of lucky this semester. I'm not sure lucky because we are in the COVID time, but anyway. I add some extra thing to it, and I mean topics are same, but much more content and much more assignments and quizzes and those kind of things. Okay, so if there is no question about your final exam, and from next week, I ask some experts in the field of analytics to give us some lecture online. I should check with, they should check with their company, see if they let them to do. Hopefully they make a synchronous one. Otherwise, I ask them to record a video and send it to us, and I share it with you guys. But for example, one of them is from a healthcare, governmental healthcare company. She used to be international student, so you could get to those companies too. And she's doing analytics in the healthcare. It might be the first one. Also, another one, I'm not sure if she has time, is Naim Guru. She's doing analytics and she's teaching Naim over like some websites such as like Udemy, Coursera, those kind of things. I asked them to see which one is available. If they're available, they do. Otherwise, up to the final, add some extra thing like some cool visualizations or like some experiments, which is out of your content for the final exam. So from now, I give priority from people in the class for their project. If they want me to give them some feedbacks, then I go over Zoom. So who wants to talk about his or her project? You can even talk loudly so your friend can give you feedbacks. Otherwise, I can come to your desk and give you some in-person comments. Even if you haven't started that much, you can talk about your topic. So if I can give you comments over your topic. I think she was first. Yeah. Okay. Okay. What's your topic? House expert. So do you want to predict it, right? Could you share your variables? I mean, data dictionary over Zoom. So if you want to, maybe your other classmate could see and give you comments. If you are not happy to share, I can come to your laptop. Oh, so you did over Python. Oh, that's cool. Yeah, okay, so let you share over. So now you can share. So I give everyone access to share it. Do you have your data dictionary? So let me see. Lot frontage, MS subclass, lot area, overall quality, overall condition, year built, year remodel, add, I guess, mass, whatever area, basement, something, basement, okay. So I think you can go up. From what I see, what is your dependent variable here? Which one? Which column? Sale price. Okay, so you can do two things. One of them is for sure is predicting the price. So, okay, so, and the second one, what are the important variables in prediction? So when you do, you can search in Python how to find variable importance. For example, let's say basement or the material that they use or pool area is important. Okay, so what does it mean? It means if they are, I just assume, I'm not sure what are the most important variable in your prediction, but you can say, okay, pool area is very important, basement area is important. So maybe as a company, as a landlord who's just selling apartments or houses, you can invest in the pool and invest in the basement or the material that you use, and so you can sell more. So one of them is important variables, because for you just predicting price may not be important. Let's say you want to invest in some properties. For example, the current president, he actually did something similar. When he was young, he used to buy cheap places, renovate, and sell it much more expensive. So what the current US president did, he knew that what are the important variables in the sale price. And so he just found some old places and think of what he can do to sell them much more and makes a lot. And he is a billionaire right now. So you can see people make a lot of money. So for you, predicting the price is not the only important thing. You also want to see what are the important variables. On top of that, let's say your right now your dependent variable is a continuous variable. Look at the accuracy. If your accuracy is not great, because you have MSE, ML, so those kind of things. So if they are not very good, instead of predicting the continuous price, you can change them in change it to a classification problem. For example, let's say I just throw a number, less than 50,000, maybe low price, between 50 to 100 middle price, and more than 100,000 high price. So you can just divide in different groups. If you find a reference for the price, classification might be better. Maybe you can find a journal article that they are saying that this kind of price is for low income, this kind of price for middle income, and this kind of price for high income. If you cannot find a reference, that's fine too. Okay, go up. Okay, stop here. When you put such a figure, I mean, in your final project, explain what those figure means, why you put them. Don't just leave it in your project. Any figure. I'm not saying this or that figure. So when one of the reasons last year your friend lost from the final project, there's so many figures in the report, but they didn't explain what do they mean. Okay. No. When you made a visualization, just talk about that visualization. Say what does it mean? Don't. Okay. Go down. Okay. Stop here. don't say this is my X variable, this is my Y variable. Maybe with this one, you can say there is a lot of variation in the very new, when you remodel recently. I think the 0 means they just remodeled. Or let's say talk about year built. So it seems that when they are a very new apartment, you have a lot of variations. But when it gets older, like 3,100 years, maybe there's not that much of variance. It just means when your apartment gets old, maybe the other variables are not very important. Age is really important. Because if other variables are more important, you see a lot of variations based on like the pool area, maybe basement area, the material. So those have a lot of effects on your price. So it's the reason you have a lot of variation. But when you have a very old house or building, I mean, having a pool or basement, maybe it's not that much of importance. So there's a much less variation. So what does it mean? Same as the current US president. So maybe if you buy a very old building, maybe less than 100 years old, and you already know what are the important variables in the price. Let's say you buy a building with 100 years and there is no pool area, and for example, the basement is very small. Maybe you can say, well, let's remodel it. First of all, it's very cheap. So you can add a pool or increase the basement size, and you can sell it much more. No worries if your interpretation of figures is not very great. As long as you have an interpretation, is really good. Don't just leave these figures in your final report and don't just say this is X, this is Y. So just try to see any association in your visualization. What can you understand from those visualizations? And it's for everyone. It's not just for your friends. So if you do visualization in your report, you should explain what you can understand from the figure. Yes, because I also understand you can understand Tableau. At least do half of your visualization in Tableau. Actually, Tableau is easier than Python. Yeah. That's okay, but also what I recommend on top of it, because you need to try to improve your performance. So don't just look at the linear correlation. You can use random forest. If you already have the Python, I think I have a session I talk about different feature selection methods. Random forest, neural network, SVM, because maybe a relationship between your X and Y is not linear. Maybe there is a non-linear relationship. So with this feature selection, you cannot pick those unlinear relationships. Or maybe you can add, okay, so maybe you can use this. Let's say right now you have 23 variables, right? Let's say with SVM, you get 40 variables. What can you do? You can look at the variables that are common in between both of them and use them. Or let's say in SVM, you just get 10 variables. Here, 23, maybe you can add them together. There is some overlap, but at the end, instead of 23, it could be 27. That's fine. So just either if like, or maybe you can do a comparison. So there's a lot of flexibility. Maybe you compare the SVM features with the linear features. Maybe you add them together, or you just take care of the common variables in these two. So yeah, you need to play with your, I mean, I don't recommend just use a linear relationship for feature selection. I think if you add other method, that might be better. For example, y and x2. Let's say y is your price and x raised to power of 2. Let's say pool area. X2 plus something, whatever. Let's say this value. There is no linear relationship between x and y. At the end, your model doesn't pick x. So it's the reason I'm saying that not just use linear correlation for feature selection, use other algorithms like SVM, neural network. Just Google like SVM feature selection, neural network feature selection, any non-linear algorithm. Yes, and on top of linear, at least use another approach too.
So we should like combine the results.
Yeah, you can combine. Let's say it could be you get different results. I'm not sure what you get at the end. Let's say use SVM and you use linear relationship like correlation. Maybe if you combine, it's 30 variable. I think it should be fine. Maybe you get the overlap here, maybe it will be 50. That should be fine too. So just either one of them, either do combination. Maybe if you do combination, it's better, but it depends. I mean, I just want to see that you use another feature selection algorithm too. I think if you combine, probably your result is better than overlap.
After or the model and the tuning, we just got the back one is the
Yeah, I look at R square is great actually. Mean square, it seems you got a good result, but try to improve it. Maybe you try to improve, but you couldn't. Maybe you do this kind of feature selection and combine, but at the end, instead of 89, your R square would be 82. That's fine. I just want to see that you try to improve. There is no guarantee that you improve, but at least I want to see, for example, you have two different MSE and R square. What is your result before tuning? Oh yeah, it's after tuning. I mean, I'm just saying that at least try I think I explain how to try to do your final project, but you should try different approach to improve your performance. Don't just report one performance, at least 2 or 3 different performance. Say that it was your first try, it was your second try, third try, whatever.
So we do the SVR model with those RTM kernel and the poly kernel.
And that's good.
Yeah, but we try to tune those two models, the poly with the poly kernel, and run a
it's still running, but you can't. Yeah. So what was your predictive model? Which, I saw something. Is this SVM? Yeah, SVM is actually a heavy algorithm. It might take a lot of time. So maybe you can choose a faster one. SVR is really a very time-consuming algorithm. No. I know SVR is. How many rows do you have? No worries. Even if you want to check it, maybe you pick 100 rows and your columns, see if your code is working or not. But I know SVR it really takes a lot of time. Is that your question? Okay, I think you are the second. So what's your question? You can share over if you want. You can share. Otherwise, I come to your PC.
Okay, I'll be sharing just one question. Can it happen that with random forest, if we reset the partitioning pattern dynamically, it can give different accuracy results?
So it's a random split. If did you pick a random seed?
No, it happened. I'm thinking of taking it, but what happened is earlier when I signed a lexicon-based sentiment for hotel review. So I submitted to you, but I noticed that after submission to you, I was checking because after downloading it is one. But the accuracy that I submitted to you, it was like 47%. But after the submission, I ran it again, it is like 51%. I mean, different event. Even I checked again now, same thing is happening.
Yeah, I mean, if so, when you do partitioning or training algorithm, if you don't pick a random seed, result should be different, but your variation is a lot, like 47 to 51 is a lot of variation.
Is it okay? Is it because of not using the? I didn't use the random seed. Is it because of that?
Yes, might be.
Oh, okay. Then I should use the random seed to.
I mean, if your final project you don't pick a random seed, and I don't see it. I mean, 4%, 5% should be fine. But I mean, for example, if you in your report you say 41, but in your final get 80 or 70, it's a lot of differences. So. So if your variation is like within like less about 5%, that should be fine.
Okay. Is it like it happens with random first, or it can happen with like
anything?
So I will try with using the random seed and regarding the project, I'm just sharing the screen.
Okay, please share.
So this is my data set. I don't know actually how it is Python, so we used it in Excel.
No, that's fine.
So my I wanted to predict is exchange rate.
Okay.
Based on the data like FDI, remittance, then export, import, trade balance. I mean, these are all real data collected from the central bank. Then the foreign reserve, GDP, account balance, interest rate, inflation. These are my variables. So with these variables, I wanted to predict the exchange rate of my local currency against $1 US.
Okay.
So how can I use the sentiment analysis here? Is it possible?
So you should have sentiment data. If you, what I can say, let me think. And this is like a daily, is it annual report or monthly?
These are
monthly.
So some data were actually annual, but I converted these to monthly. Like some data available only for 6 months. So for example, FDI, these are available in 3 months or 6 months. So I divided it equally.
So is there any annual report in the governmental website or any text that talk about what happened that month in your, is it for your country, right?
Yeah.
So if you want to add sentiment analysis, maybe you can check any official website. They have a written report. So you can see if the sentiment is positive, negative, or maybe you can convert those sentiments to the columns of text, either 0 or 1, and try to predict. But if you can't find, if there is no data, there is no, I mean, if there is no sentiment, there is no sentiment analysis.
I was thinking of one thing, I don't know whether it will work or not. So for example, if there are like international agencies like World Bank and Thailand, or any other independent review. So sometimes they write about some articles on the economy of the country, which actually reflects the strength of an economy.
But you know, if it should be something cyclical, so, or I mean, if you have annual report in terms of textual document, that helps. But you should see if this is available for all the months. It's not just.
These are actually combination of laws, like monetary policy. There are some monthly reports. They talk about laws. These are like 40, 50 pages report. And so instead of this, if I use the newspaper articles, like sometimes journalists or economists.
I know it could be like newspaper, but I mean, it should talk about the 1 month. What happened in the last month? Some of the newspaper are just daily base thing. It may not help. Or maybe what you can do, let's say there is a like economy newspaper in your country, and maybe you pick, maybe you can do something. So for each month, take the first and last day as a one variable. So for example, let's say let me just Google it on my. Is there any famous economic newspaper in Bangladesh?
The
Financial Express. Financial Express, Bangladesh. I'm not sure if I type your country. Yeah, Financial Express. Okay. Do they have any archive?
I think they have.
Where is the? Oh, e-paper. Hello. Okay, e-paper. I hope you can get at least a PDF or something. Okay, let's see if you can get any textual text out of it. But maybe you can have 2 columns. First day sentiment. First day of month, last day. And don't put positive, negative. I think if you put like how much positive, negative might better maybe. Or if you can't, just put either like plus, minus. Or instead of plus, minus, you can put 0, 1. I think 0, 1 is better. So that is easier to convert. So for example, 0 means positive, 1 means negative. Or it could be negative, -1, 0, 1. Just see which one is better. So you could have 2 new variables talking about the sentiment of Bangladesh economy, either first day or last, or maybe you can add more. I think it's much easier if you do it this way.
Let me try.
For example, let me go back to your Zoom. For example, you have 2 columns. One of them is export column that you put there. GDP, whatever. So next to other variables, you have 2 numerical columns talking about if the sentiment is positive or negative, Or you can, it could be like 60%. 60% positive, maybe you have, instead of one column, you can have two columns, like 40% negative. So instead of putting 0, 1, it could be like these proportions, percentages. And even this one, you can, so at the end, instead of 2, maybe you can have 4 columns.
So do I need to copy and paste the text in the report, or that's a URL? These columns, like first and last.
No, not URL. Is much more difficult. Actually, you should, let's say, in the class exercise, we use a CSV. So each CSV, each row has a text. So in that row, in that cell, you can, if try to find like a one paragraph that summarizes everything that should be there, you put it there.
The text itself should be in the row.
Yeah. So whole of the text would be in one cell. You can put like 10 pages in one cell. So.
Okay, I'll try to this way. I'll let you know.
Okay. That would be very interesting. Okay. So for the remaining people in the class, do you guys have questions, or do you want to share anything from your project?
Actually, I have a question. I think I do not share my screen because a few questions.
Okay.
And I do the project for the stock evaluation. Since like the predict of the stock price.
Okay.
And I'm a little confused how I can use 9 to evaluate the accuracy, because I use the data from today, like for past several years, to do that. And yeah, I don't know how to evaluate the accuracy on 9.
Haven't I shared a workflow for that? So, let me tell you. I think your workflow, at least I remember we had some accuracy, like how to find AUC accuracy, those kind of things. Do you remember? Okay, I give you, let's say instead of classification, because in classification, I think you had, at least you had a classification example, and in that classification workflow, we talk about accuracy, AUC. So, but if your dependent variable is continuous, you need to use another module. But I can make the problem easier for you. So let's say your dependent variable is a price. For example, Apple price could, let's say Apple stock, 100, 101, 102, 99, 103, 101. Instead of using continuous variable, which we didn't have any example for accuracy of continuous variable, right? So you can change it to classification. How? Exclude the first one. Instead of price, work with the price movement. What I mean price movement? So the first day you don't have any price movement. You can maybe delete the first row. For second row, so 101, is it more than 100 or less? More. So you can put 1. 102 is more than 101, right? 1. 99, is it less or more than 102?
Less.
So 0. This one, 1. This one? Why 0?
Because it's
so sorry guys, we got suddenly lost the internet. So 9 module for RMSE. For accuracy of continuous variable. Okay, let me just, when I Googled, I was thinking it's first link. I'm not sure why it doesn't show. So at least let me just search for continuous variable accuracy, because your case is a continuous variable. But at least you can convert to the classification problem and use the workflow that we had. In one of the classes, at least in 2 of our classes, we had classification problem. I'll show you how to find the accuracy, AUC, those kind of things. So no worries. But let me look at them, and I try to find a good workflow, because even the module may not be useful for you. If you see whole of the workflow, might be much better. Okay. So what other questions? You said you have like few questions.
Yeah, just this quick question.
Okay, cool. So again, even if you submit such a thing, that's totally fine.
Those things is fine.
Yeah, if you do prediction for the price movement, it's fine. If you, I try to find a good module for continuous variable. Otherwise, go to one of our sessions, try to do predict price movement. Okay. So, any other questions? Do you have questions regarding your final project? Yeah, what is your question?
My project is also predict the branding of different museums according to different types.
Could you say loudly? I cannot hear you.
My project is about predicting the revenue of different museums.
Different museums? Oh, museums. Okay.
According to different locations. And different types.
Okay. So how many independent? So 5 or 6 per year, you cannot do feature selection. So because 5 or 6, if you do feature selection, you don't want to lose any. So if you want to try to improve your performance, even it might be same for the other people who don't have too much of variables. So try to do. Have you had Python with me, or is your first class? Okay. So use different algorithms. For example, you can do random forest, neural network, SVM. So because feature selection may not work for you, unless maybe you can add new variables. For example, let's see if, do you want to share your screen, or you don't want? If you don't want, that's fine. You can? Okay, so let me just stop share. Okay, now I think you can share. Okay, so let me see. You have state, city, zip code. Okay, one of the variables could be a state. So you can, do you remember I talked about hot one encoding? So look at one of the workflow that I talk about one hot encoding. So the state, column I is about the state. You can convert it to, you can do one hot encoding, or maybe there's 50 states. There's too many. First of all, that variable could be converted to 50 variables. But it's not a good idea. So instead of making one hot encoding for 50 states, just do this. For example, in the United States, I'm not doing a good one. How is United States? It's like something like in California. So it's just convert that column, because that column might be very challenging. Do southeast states, northeast, southwest, and northwest. Or any other combinations. But I just say instead of 50, it's not really useful. You might not use that. It's not really useful. So southwest, and the fifth one is other. So Alaska could be other, or might be Puerto Rico, or might be Hawaii. So instead of a column with 50 classes, you might have just 5 classes. Then you do one hot encoding. One hot encoding. As another try, you can do label encoding. And we talk about them. So just look at those sessions and workflows, because in order to use that column, you need to convert to equivalent numerical. So there is 2 ways we talk about. This is one label encoding and one hot encoding. Okay, so probably you don't use city variable, a street variable, museum type. So it could be your museum type. Let's see if your types are limited or not. If it's like a state that have 50 categories or 50 type of museum, just convert them to something smaller. Let's say if you can convert to 4 category or 5 category. So far, you at least have 10 variables. So you are not just 5 or 6 variables. You might have, so far, those state could be converted to 5 categories, 5 different dummy variables. The museum type could be converted to like 3 or 4 type of museum. Zip code, maybe you just get rid of it. Zip code is not useful. City, state, zip code, no. Phone number, no. Latitude, longitude, you drop them. What is column R? I don't understand. If they are useful, you can convert to categorical variable. So instead of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, whatever, just consider them as a categorical variable. Country code, drop them. State code, or maybe if region, how many regions you have? How many? 50. Okay, click on U. Just select U column. Go to data. Go to filter. Select filter. Now go to U again. Click that. So you just have 6. So if it's 6, that's fine. You don't need to convert a state. So it's kind of similar to region. I told you northeast, southwest, So maybe you can drop a state. So you can drop a state, you can drop zip code, address. Okay, so far, you have one variable of museum type you can use. You can have one variable of region. Okay, what is the employer? Huh? Oh, ID number. No, it's not useful. What is tax period? Oh. So you just have two variables. I don't recommend to you. I mean, you just have region, first of all, one variable. Income, second variable. So I recommend to change your project. I mean, with two variables, you cannot do that much of thing. So, and you don't lose any credit, because if you already submit your, introduction or other submissions, you don't lose any credit. So for a final project, you use another data set, at least you can use like 10, 20 variables. You don't have to submit previous submissions. So if you had other submissions, you don't lose credit. You already submitted this. For your final project, just to try to find a good data set. So people over Zoom, could you do a sub share so your friends could, if they have questions? So people over Zoom, if you guys have questions about your final project, you can also ask. But if it's similar to your friend, if you just have 2 or 3 variables, I recommend to do a better data set. Questions from people over Zoom? But no worries, you don't lose any credit. Just try to find a better data set. But you see that sometimes you have categorical variable. You need to convert them to equivalent numerical. We talk about one hot encoding and label encoding. So if you have such a variable like a state region, you need to convert it. Yes. Uh-huh. Yeah, but you have a good accuracy. You don't have to convert. Your R squared and like MSU, absolute error, all of them were really good. I mean, you can, but I mean, you don't have to. I mean, I don't see any question from people over Zoom. So that's fine. If please look at your project. If you see if you can find any questions that's challenging for you. I share this video later. For people over Zoom who are not sure what could be their challenge or questions, we can make it, please reach me through my office hours, or if they don't work, request for a meeting. So I look at your project and give you some comments. I might be very destructive. I'm not sure, is it instructive or destructive? But for example, one of your friends just said, change your database. Okay, I don't see any question from people over Zoom. That's totally fine. Again, you guys can reach me later, and I look at your project and give you some comments. Is there any question from people here? Yes, what? Okay, let me put my mask. Just wait.
Yeah, you know, if there is a high correlation like GDP, it means there is a linear relationship. If there is a low correlation, that's fine. You can say there is no linear relationship. Okay. So for the test, because the cumulative and hypothesis here on the descriptive statistics part. So I try to check this with augmented data in this data. So here they found like some of the variables I can visit, but I think I'll be using the feature selection again in now.
Oh, that's fine. I don't care. Maybe one prediction could be with the linear. You take care of the linear correlation, that's what you're saying. And maybe next, when you want to try again, in the next try, you're going to do feature selection. Okay. So these are the different approaches. The
Linear selection in and you're talking 9 or here?
both of them are found.
Okay. So I'm keeping this one like the scarcity coefficient in Kepler. So these things I'm keeping. Then I have done it's in the strata. I'll be doing the linear selection again in 9 and also the feature selection. And is there any limitation on the number of variables that we might have? I mean, we should have like to do the feature selection.
There is no activity for root solver. We just try to have the highest performance. That's it.
Okay.
So maybe sometimes 3 variables you have the best, and sometimes 10 variables you have the best. So, but if you do linear model for prediction, it's say you have like 5 or 6 should be fine.
Okay.
But I mean, there is no guarantee. Maybe in one project you should have 20 variables. Cool. That's it.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you very much. It seems you have a really good project. So let me end the Zoom.